All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, PKA Worldwide is back at it. We've got some tryouts going on in Texas, and that is going to be transpiring August 27th in Fort Worth. A lot of very interesting things going on, a lot of very tenured combat sports veterans part of this as well, and one of the judges that's part of that tryout series is Superfoot Bill Wallace, and very happy to be welcoming him onto the show. How's your day going so far there, Bill?
Absolutely wonderful. I'm in West Palm Beach, Florida. It's going to be 104 degrees down here this afternoon. At 2 o'clock, it's supposed to reach 104 degrees. In centigrade, it would be maybe 85, maybe 90, something like that.
So looking like a nice day out there, or maybe a little too toasty?
Little too warm. It's humid and warm, but still beautiful. It's still nice. You don't want to take the convertible top down because you get sunburned. But it's nice. I like it. It's better than cold. I like warm better than cold.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm inclined to feel the same way, which is sort of curious living in Canada, but, is what it is and everything like that. I'm just, wanting to talk about PKA Worldwide sort of coming back into the fold, because obviously they very much had a presence for, many, many years and stuff like that. Like, I remember the, Battle of Montreal and everything like that, so many big events. Like, why did now kind of feel like an organic time for PKA Worldwide to come back? 'Cause it seems like the landscape is really good for stand-up martial arts now.
It's great, the standing up, the striking part of it. At first, when MMA started, everybody thought that grappling was great. I was a wrestler in high school and college. And when I started playing martial arts, wrestling is a martial art, by the way, but when I started playing martial arts, it was judo. And I liked the judo because I could do a lot of grappling in the judo aspect, the hold downs, the chokes, the arm bars. I like the throws, but I like the groundwork better. And then I tore my knee up. I started playing karate. And when PK first started, when we first started doing it back in 1974, throws were allowed, takedowns were allowed. You couldn't choke or armbar, but you could still throw people, and I enjoyed that very much because at that time I didn't know how to punch very well. So if you're in close, you're gonna end up on the ground. So that was I could throw you.
Yeah, and a PKA definitely with like a more unique kind of rule set even in the current landscape, because like, karate combat is out there, but like some of the, strikes that are allowed and conversely some of the strikes that are omitted, a little different from PKA's rule set. So I think that's cool. I was talking to Joe Corley about that just yesterday.
Yeah, when it first started, because of the throws and everything, people didn't know how to punch. Just a few of us knew how to punch correctly, efficiently, you might say. So, people would try to throw each other, but then it ended up being like a grappling match. So they took the throws out, which was okay in a way, but it made us learn how to box. It made us learn how to use our hand techniques so we could use the punching techniques and effective with our kicking techniques.
Yeah, and it's also really cool just to see like a platform for like somebody who like say is coming from the Olympics in straight karate or like Taekwondo or something like that. I mean, MMA is out there too, but I mean, there's the grappling interspersed in that as well. Like if someone just wants to do the straight, stand up, karate kind of fighting or kickboxing or something of the sort, it's great to see that there's platforms, for them to just like transfer over and do that.
Oh, exactly. I was at the very first MMA match in Denver, and people basically, if you're not a jiu-jitsu person at that time, you had no idea what was going on. These guys are rolling around on the ground. All of a sudden, you see somebody tap out. I said, "Why did he tap out? He didn't get punched. He didn't get kicked or anything. Why did he tap out?" I said, "Well, some guy, they choked him out." I says, "You can't see it. How did he choke him out?" Well, then So I mean, basically at that time, there were more fights in the audience than there was down in the octagon.
Yeah, and that was such an amazing thing to be a part of, just being on that inaugural UFC event there. Do you still kind of keep up with what they're doing? Because, I mean, it's such a, incredibly, different sport.
A few fighters that like to watch. I'm not, because of my kicking and my boxing now, and I'm 77 years old, I'm not thrilled about going to the ground and roll around on the ground with somebody, especially if he stinks, Just kidding. But, so I like the stand-up. I like the nice, sharp strikes, the nice, sharp kicking techniques, the punching techniques, the combinations, and so forth. Because, no matter what they say, all the groundwork and everything, every fight that I've ever seen starts standing up.
Yeah, no, definitely have to have that, base understanding of the, stand up and everything like that. But something I was talking to Joe Corley about just yesterday there that I thought was kind of an interesting part of this event, because like just so many well regarded strikers part of this event. I mean, yourself, Rick Rufus being part of it as well. I think it's cool that like some of the competitors will be coming in and just getting to show their skill set in front of you guys. I would think that would be quite a thrill for just some of the younger talent and stuff like that, just being that I would presume they would have like looked up to you and modeled their kind of martial arts arcs after you. Like, how do you feel with those kind of dynamics? I would think that'd be cool.
The kids nowadays, back when I was doing it, you understand, I retired 42 years ago. It's funny, 1980, and you go, wow, 42 years, that's a long time. And the fighters have gotten so much better endurance-wise, so much better technique-wise. Back in the old days, we had 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 5 techniques that really worked for us. Very few of us had really effective spinning kicks. Very few of us had a really effective high kicks per se. But we learned the box to keep the guy away from us so we could do the kicking. And the movements nowadays are just absolutely. I'm just amazed that the guys are as great as they are today. They took what we did and made it so much better. Made it so much better. I'm glad I'm old.
Yeah, it must be cool because you seem like obviously very passionate about the martial arts. It must be cool to see all the different, permutations and just the evolution of it. But then also, like, you'll see certain, like, techniques that were used, like, many years ago all of a sudden come back to the forefront and have great use. So I would think all those different things, just seeing the, progression of martial arts and everything, I would think you would find that very interesting.
Oh, very, the case in point, if you think about it, in boxing, the very first technique you learn is the jab. The second technique you learn is the cross. And in point tournaments, if you've ever been to a karate point tournament, the number 1 and the number 2 technique is the back fist reverse punch. And that's the number 1 in the whole world. And you go, wow, because they're easy to throw. You learn right off the bat, and they're very effective. So they make them effective, and they make it work for them. And the techniques with those punching techniques are phenomenal. The jump spinning techniques, Rick is absolutely phenomenal with his roundhouse kick and his different jumping techniques and so forth. Very light on his feet. The new guys have taken what we've done, have improved it so much that they're just, I'm amazed at how great they are.
Yeah, and I love the dynamic, too, just how there's like a certain set of invitations that get sent out, but people can kind of sign up at that PKA Worldwide website and everything like that. I'm kind of curious, like, just if some of the people who have, like, signed up for that and are going to be actively participating have, like, tried to reach out to you and everything like that, just to that, prior point of, like, them being fans and stuff like that. I would think they would, be excited to get to compete in front of Superfoot.
I've been all over the world several times doing seminars, and I keep looking for really, really good fighters, really good kickers, really good technicians, and it amazes me they're out there. They're out there, and they'll take what we've done and change it just ever so slightly, because what people have to understand is no 2 people are built the same. They might look the same, but there's something a little bit different. So they'll take what we've done, tweak it just a little bit, and make it absolutely fantastic for them. Nobody had a jab like Muhammad Ali had a jab. But you watch Sugar Ray Leonard, you watch Floyd Mayweather now. The guys are all the time evolving, all the time getting better and better and better. And the endurance is phenomenal. My last fights were 12-round fights, and you had to be in good shape. I mean, you had to be able to take the shot, you had to be able to give the shot, and be able to last. And you look back on it, you go, wow, that's fun. And I don't know if you've ever been to one of my seminars or not, but I have a blast. I have an absolute blast. I have more fun in doing a seminar than the participants do, because I'm having a blast.
I actually haven't had the privilege, but I would definitely enjoy that in the future. But it's interesting you say that, because I was in doing my research.
Ottawa, October.
Yeah, no, you were mentioning that. I definitely have to check that out for sure. I think that would be really enriching. But like when I was doing the research, I was seeing a lot of people commenting on your seminars and just like how like just the depth of like martial arts knowledge you have and the passion and everything like that. And I see a lot of people saying, "Oh yeah, I hope when I'm like at that point in my martial arts journey, I have that level of like exuberance and everything like that, and mobility and stuff like that." So, is that what kind of keeps you out there? Does that maintain a certain level of like vibrancy and everything, just like imparting martial arts technique on people? Because you seem to light up when you talk about it.
Oh, exactly. You take boxing, and I love boxing, by the way, because it's fun and it's easy. You have the jab, the cross, the hook, and the uppercut. 4 techniques. In all of boxing, there's only 4. And if you're not going to be a fighter, if you're not going to go into the ring and compete, what do you do after the first 6 months? Well, you change it, you play with it, you modify it to where you can do it different ways. Jab, hook, cross hook, different combinations to where it becomes more efficient for you, more fun. In my entire career, I had 5 techniques: a side kick, a roundhouse kick, and a hook kick, a back fist or a jab, a ridge hand or a left hook, all with the front leg, front hand. And it amazes me to this day that I can change those and play with them and modify them, and they become somewhat effective for me. I'm having a blast, and it's still fun because I still have the flexibility. 77, I can still do the splits. Not as fast as I was, not as strong as I was, but it's still a ball. And you people that are watching, understand, if you're having fun, and I have a blast doing this, if you're having fun, you can do this absolutely forever. Remember, when you retire, you die. So don't ever quit. Keep going. Make it fun. Change it. Make it fun.
Yeah, well, I think you really embody that, like, martial arts adapting and stuff like that, because, I mean, just, the Superfoot nickname kind of being inspired by having to, like, make adaptations to, like, a previous injury and stuff like that, so, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's fun kicking people.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that this PKA competition coming up is going to be in the confines of a cage as opposed to like more of like a normative like kickboxing or boxing kind of ring. Like, what do you think that's going to add to the fight? I was talking to Joe Corley about that the other day, and he was saying like the cage is kind of like emblematic of like fight sport to sort of like the newer generation of fighters and everything like that. Like, what do you think about it being inside of the confines of a cage as opposed to, say, a ring?
I've never fought in the cage per se. Walked around in one, played around in one. I'm used to. First of all, I was a point fighter back in the early '70s, late '60s, early '70s, and we just had a square put on the floor, taped in the floor. So I didn't mind stepping out of bounds because they didn't penalize you or warn you. Get back in the ring. So I walked back in the ring, and I'd run out of the ring again because I didn't want to get hit. Then all of a sudden they put us in this ring. And I go, uh-oh, I have no place to run. So now I have to fight back. Now I have to use strategy, you might say, to work combinations, to work techniques, to get my opponent to run into something. People didn't realize, but I was a very good counter fighter because I wanted to run from you. I didn't want to be close to you. The nose is still straight. There's no scar tissue. And when I talk, I don't want to get hit. So I would keep my distance from you and get you to run into something. A lot of fighters nowadays are using that. Conor McGregor was great at keeping the distance. A lot of the younger fighters are great because they have that distance. They don't get hit. They can counter. And I'm just, like I said before, I'm amazed at how fantastic these guys are nowadays.
Yeah, and it must be cool to, just see it coming back and everything like that, just with you being part of that, like, PKA championship lineage, and it seems like there's going to be a few tryout events, and then it'll just keep building thereafter, so it must be cool to see, like, the lineage kind of continue on and stuff like that from your vantage point here.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to it. Joe sent me some videos from New York, and I'm amazed. I go, wow. He can really do that stuff. They do that stuff. I was brought up in the old time with back fist, reverse punch, front kick. That type of stuff that was the end of it. No front leg stuff, except when I tore my knee up, I had to start using the front leg. But they've taken the techniques and made them phenomenal now. I mean, every little kid wants to do that little jumping, spinning back kick, and once they find out it doesn't work that well, they don't use it anymore. But the guys nowadays, the fighters that you'll see in Dallas, the fighters that you saw in New York, these guys are absolutely phenomenal. I mean, geez, I mean, he knew a double jump and spinning. You know, I have trouble getting an inch off the ground. These guys are 3 or 4 feet off the ground when they do the kicking. So I'm looking really forward to it.
Yeah, it's an incredible sort of thing to see come back to the forefront there, just with like the lineage PKA has. But I wanted to touch on some other outside aspects too, because I think it's really interesting, like the close connectivity you had with Elvis many years ago, and obviously there's that new movie out there about Elvis now. Do you find that kind of stuff a little odd? Like, do you go see things like that just because it's like based on like a friend of yours? Would it be kind of unusual?
I'm not going to see the film. I have my views of what Elvis was like when he was with me. I have my views of what Tom Parker was like when he was with me. And you have to think about the only, of all the Memphis Mafia that was around when the film was being done and all that stuff, the only one that's still alive is myself and Jerry Schilling, who's working with Priscilla right now. All the other guys are gone. I mean, they've died off. They're gone. You look back and you go, wow. And I remember, talking with Elvis when we were in his bedroom. The funny thing too is there's probably maybe 3 or 4 of us still alive. They're up in his bedroom when he was alive. And everybody else was. Now you go to Graceland, you're not even allowed to go up to the bedroom. But we're there sitting on the bed talking, joking, and having a blast. And those were some of the, not even realizing it at the time, those are some of the best times I've ever had. Sitting around talking with the king. One of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. I feel like I almost knew the answer to that. I think it'd be weird, like, even from my vantage point, if, like, someone made a movie about, like, someone I knew on a level of being a friend. It's like, you can probably tell there's that separation of, like, the outsider perspective versus, like, you yourself who actually knows the individual. So, yeah.
What you don't want to do also is sit in a movie theater and say, he never said that. No, he didn't. He wouldn't. No, he wouldn't have. No, that's not true. He wouldn't yell. So yeah. I don't want to upset everybody. So I have my own views on it. I just shut my eyes and think of what it was back in 74 through 77 when we had a blast together.
Yeah, and it seemed like he was very impassioned about the martial arts, and I imagine was like picking your brain a lot with that. Was there like the inverse dynamic too, where like you were like picking his brain with the music and like some of the Sun Records exploits and all that?
Funny thing at the time, I didn't like his music that much. I like Trilogy. The best song that I think he's ever done was the Trilogy. Battle of the Republic, Dixie, and Hush Hush Sweet Children. That's the best song I ever thought he did. And I liked some of his music, but I wasn't thrilled about it. So, but he was Ed Parker's student. He started taking martial arts lessons with Ed Parker out in California, early 70s, and then he originally started in Germany when he was in the army back in the late 60s, but he was just he didn't have the time to train like you or I do. He couldn't take the chance of getting hit like you or I do. We don't care. So he was great at self-defense, which is what the Kempo system is all about. The basic self-defense, the movements, the sets that they practiced. He was phenomenal. There's a picture of him at TKI where we worked out doing a side kick. And if you look at it, it's a phenomenal side kick. The foot's turned. He's either with the side of the foot and the heel. His arms are up. He's balanced. It's a great-looking kick. I wish I could do one that well.
Yeah, do you think if he was in a different position where, I mean, like you said, he can't really, like, do, like, that heavy contact sparring and everything like that, there's a certain, like, aesthetic kind of consideration you have to have with the music end of things. Do you think, like, just on a level of, I guess, proficiency with his technique that he could have competed at, I mean, maybe not a PKA level per se, but do you think there could have been some level of competitive success to be had?
I think he would have loved that. I think because he's a hands-on guy. He liked to ride horses. He liked to play with cars. He liked the one-on-one. I mean, when he would do self-defense techniques with Red West, he would beat the living crap out of Red, and Red would love it because Red was his number one guy, and it's just phenomenal to watch these guys do it. I mean, Jerry, Red West, Jerry Schilling, Sonny West, Joe Esposito, Charlie Hodge. These guys, they're all gone now, but they were all up at the school, all working out, learning how to punch and kick and train together.
Yeah, I mean, very interesting journey, just like the friendship and stuff like that. But then also, I understand you were a bodyguard for him at one point. Did things ever get like a little hectic in that regard, or like not so much? You didn't have to like break out the Superfoot techniques as much.
No, see, this is kind of funny. I was never really a bodyguard. I would go places with him, but I was not. But he had enough bodyguards with him. He had Sonny West, Red West, who was one bad dude. Trust me, Red West is about 5'7", 5'8", but a bad dude, a tough guy. So he had all those guys that were with him 100% of the time. My job was to have him come. I would either go out to the raceland, he'd come down and PKA. We'd work out. We'd have fun. We train. He'd call me up and say, "Come out to the house. We're going to go for a ride." Okay. Come out to the house. I'd like to play out here for a while. Okay. And something like that. But I never did travel with him per se for that reason because, I took enough punches to kiss for myself. I don't want to take them for somebody else.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I can understand that perspective, but something that I also found interesting, like you had great success as a competitive martial artist, but I also find like movies can be a great vehicle for inspiring people to get into the martial arts, and it seemed like you were in a lot of like films in that kind of vein with like, some really big names like Chuck Norris and Jackie Chan and everything like that. Like how many people do you think you inspired?
Die really good. I'm a good dyer.
But how much do you think that serves as a vehicle to like inspire people, like just even in the context of a movie where it's like very choreographed and stuff like that, but still you see the different techniques?
If you look at it, in every film that I was in, except for the one when we did Walker, Texas Ranger, every movie that I was in, I was the bad guy. And evidently, I did 16 films. And you go, okay, if I'm the bad guy in every film, I must be a pretty good bad guy because otherwise they either not hire me or ask me to do something else. But evidently, I have these eyes. When I get ready to do something or something. But the choreography, the fight scenes with Chuck, the choreography with the fight scene with Jackie Chan. Chris mentioned these guys, Tadashi Yamashita. We had a blast. And it's showcasing martial arts. It's showcasing that even if you're a bad guy, you still have to train. You have to be in good physical condition to be the bad guy in the film or to be the bad guy in real life. Because you can't just go out there and shoot somebody. You got to fight sometime. He's going to be too close for you to pull a gun and shoot him. So the fighting was fun, and it was. We tried to make it as realistic as we could, and. I died. I've died so many different ways in the films that when it comes time to go, God's going to say, "I'm ready for you, Bill," and I'm going to say, "Okay, which way you want me to come?" I've done them all.
I'm curious. That must be kind of fun in a way because obviously you come across as like a very polite, respectful individual. Like playing the bad guy so consistently, is that like a stimulating kind of fun thing, like going outside of the normal behavior?
Well, it's kind of fun in a way because it's like the. If I'm doing a film, I can be pardon my expression when I say it, but I can be a total ass. Because now, if I'm a total ass and somebody says, "Why are you like this?" I said, "I'm trying to stay in character. I'm the bad guy in this film, and I'm just trying to stay in character. So just go along with me while I'm being this dork, Oh, okay, no problem."
Yeah, that's a fun thing to see for sure. And just, so many great exploits throughout the career. I could really talk to you all afternoon, but I do want to be mindful of the rest of your day and what you're getting up to there. So to that point, is there anything maybe you might want to add as a parting thought as we're kind of wrapping up here, Bill?
Well, the PKA, when it stopped in 86, I was world champ from 1974 to 1980, and I defended my title 23 times and had an absolute blast. They would change the rules, but we learned from those rules, making the fights better, making them last longer, making them more receptive to the audience. And that's what PKA we're doing right now, is making it receptive to the audience. They want to see good fights. We're going to see a lot of kicking. Remember, it's kickboxing. It's not box kicking. So we're going to see a lot of kicking, a lot of movements. And I'm thrilled to death when Joe Corley invited me to help out with Jeff Smith and Rick Rufus and Don Willis and those. I said, yes, well, let's do it. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, this is going to be very exciting, just seeing the tryouts coming up August 27th in Texas there, and just the fact there's going to be subsequent PKA Worldwide events. And yeah, just love seeing this. I was a big fan of, like, like more so like K1 back in the day, like PKA. I would watch thereafter. It was like a bit before my time, but
those were the heavyweight guys. But think about that. They were K1, but it was 3 rounds, 3-minute rounds. But whatever was out there, you could kick. They could kick the legs, they could kick the inside of the knee, they could kick anything. And so they were, but it was basically at that time all heavyweights. So they were tough guys. But we have to realize also there's life after sport. Look at football players. Now they have the concussion rule. If you get hit hard, you got to go in the tent for an hour or so just to see how your head's doing. In boxing, you get hit with the right cross, get knocked out. Okay, you rest for a couple weeks, a month or so, you fight again. Or you go into the gym the next week and you get hit. So it's just, one of those things that we're looking for, the beauty of the technique, the beauty of competition, the beauty of staying around longer.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you coming on and giving some great insights in many regards. And yeah, hopefully have you on the show again in the future. Would like to talk to you again, but really excited to see this PKA Worldwide event coming up on the 27th. And yeah, excited for many more thereafter. So thanks for the time and insights, Bill, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day there.
I will have a blast. You guys, I'm sorry it's chilly up there right now. What's the temperature up in Ottawa right now?
Well, it's actually not too bad. It's kind of a warm day. I don't have the exact temperature on hand, but I'll be going outside in shorts, so it's a good thing.
Oh, okay then. But you won't go to the swimming pool.
I'll maybe take a dip. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But
our water, our ocean down here at the Atlantic Ocean, outside Boynton Beach right now, is about 85 degrees. Which is, probably 30, 32, 33 degrees centigrade. So, it's like taking a warm bath.
Yeah, that sounds glorious right now. I wish I had a little pool of water to dive into in that regard, but in the absence of that, I will...
We have a lot of water.
Yeah, I'll have to come out there soon. But yeah, again, to reiterate, I appreciate the time, Bill, and just, enjoy the rest of your day there. Thanks so much.
Thank you all very much. Watch PK. It's the kick of the future. Do it.
Punch, kick, repeat.
Yes.